If you've been thinking about retiring at 62 and compare it with 65, today's video is going to be for you. In a simple way, I'm just going to show you John and Sally, who are two fictional clients, and show you what it would look like for them to retire at 62 versus 65. Now, I know a lot of times we make retirement planning maybe a little bit more difficult than it needs to be, but I want to break it down just from a simple numerical standpoint and then give you some thoughts in terms of what you should think about for your retirement and deciding when is the right time. So these are all projections. Keep that in mind. That means that no matter what happens today, your plan is going to end up looking different. Okay, the stock market, your life events, several different factors that play a role in ultimately deciding what your retirement is going to look like are ultimately going to decide how things play out. But we can always be prepared, and I hope videos like this can be helpful. So with that disclosure, let's move right into the exam. Okay, so first let me introduce you to John and Sally, who are my fictional clients for today. They're married. They're both age 59 to make it easy. Sally is already retired and John is still working. Like I said, they're trying to think if they should retire at 62 versus 65. As for net worth, they've got about $1 million to their name after you subtract out their liability of their house right now. And let's see how that's broken down from an actual investment standpoint, because you see their biggest asset is John's 401k. Normally I see that in a very common couple relationship is where one of them will have a bigger 401k. John's currently contributing $15,000, just enough to meet the company match so that he can get that, but he's contributing no more than that. They have a joint brokerage account, which is mostly just being used for savings and emergency fund right now of $30,000. Sally's got both an IRA that she rolled over from her former job and a Roth IRA, and then John also has that Roth IRA. As for Social Security, we have John taking roughly $48,792 at his full retirement age. And we have Sally taking about half of that. And as you may already know, full retirement age is just simply when Social Security will send you 100% of what's owed to you in terms of what your annual or monthly payment will look like from them. And you might be asking, why wouldn't they just send me that either way? Because they give you the ability to take it early starting at 62 if you choose to do so. Now, I have a full other video on Social Security. I advise you to check that out if you want to learn more. But for this example, we're going to say that John's taking about $48,000 per year. He's getting that starting at age 67. And Sally is taking half of his Social Security also at 67. Okay, so as I mentioned, their ultimate goal is to compare retiring at 62 to 65, but really they want to retire at 62. They don't want to wait all the way until 65, and they'd rather retire earlier. I have John and Sally living until 90 and 94. And I know that data says they're not going to live that long, but the rise of medicine and technology, I'm going to be conservative here. So this means their money's going to need to last them for 33 years after they both retire, again, assuming that they're retiring at 62. John and Sally do not plan on moving to a different state in retirement. They're already in Texas, which, if you do not know, Texas does not have a state income tax, but other than that, not very important to note there, other than we don't have a very good football team, even though I wish we did. Let's look at what John and Sally's goals are in retirement, because that's going to be ultimately what's going to decide this. So we're going to say that John and Sally, starting at age 62, want to spend $115,000 present day cash per year in retirement. Now, I do have them at the back half of retirement spending $50,000 less per year. That's just what I see a lot of folks do, right? They have their go-go years where they're very active and they're traveling and they're still part of every group that they want to be in. The slow-go years, which is when all that kind of cools down a little bit, and then the no-go years when there's no movement at all, right? You just want to kind of stay put. You don't have the energy to travel anymore and so forth. So that's just designed really to make this plan look as realistic as possible. So now let's say that 115 is our goal. Sally's going to spend a little bit less after John passes away. But the two biggest wants they have, they're things they want to retire into, not just retire into is traveling. The first 10 years of retirement, which is going to be $25,000 per year. And then they want to have a wedding for their daughter of $50,000. Replace this with home down payment, replace this with anything that they want to give to their kids. But a lot of times I actually see significantly more than $50,000. But for this case, this is what we're going with. Okay, so now let's see if John and Sally retired 1,000 different times. How many times out of that 1,000 would they make it to the end of their retirement and be successful in their goals? And if we did that trial, you'd see about 65% of the time John and Sally are able to make it to the end. 651 of those lifetimes, they were able to do this successfully. Now you see the red bar down here represents all the times that John and Sally ran out of money. And this is typically just due to a variety of factors, some of the main being sequence of return risk. Okay, the stock market did significantly worse than they expected it to do after they retired. Could be a health event, could be needing to help family. There's several factors why someone might run out of money in retirement after a plan showed them otherwise. So this is not a guarantee, even if it was at 99%. This is just a likelihood that they get to the end of their plan with having their goals met. So let's compare this now to 65. Now as we move into comparing it to 65, you see there's a substantial difference for John and Sally. And a lot of that is attributed to, yes, they're not spending the money in retirement that they would have if they retired, of course. But John is also continuing to contribute to his retirement accounts. He's also building up everything on the outside. But let's kind of break this down and see if there's a way to still get John and Sally to retire at 62 years old. So what we're going to do is lower their living expense per year to $100,000, right? So we're going to knock about 90, or excuse me, I'm looking at that. We're going to knock about 15,000 off of it and go back to 62 and see what that score represents. Because as you can see, it's pretty significant, right? It's a very high confidence score that they can achieve. So a lot of times with the dream retirement that you have might not be realistic, but retiring into one where it's still a good life and still worth retiring earlier than waiting until you can't move or waiting until the time has passed where you still want to work there is possible. So let's keep messing around here. Let's say that I want to keep my 115, but I'm not budging on that time. So you'll even see this is a high confidence score. You'll see the colors there. Green is where it's good per se. Blue is about the highest standard you can get. Like I said, there's no guarantees here, but we could move a lot of these numbers around, and as you'd see, there'd be a ton of different factors. If we wanted to increase this, we might change 401k contributions to significantly more. We'd make John contribute a lot more to retirement. We might say, hey, you can't travel as much the first 10 years of retirement, right? There's a lot of factors that would come. So I think other than the numbers just showing, if you move variables around, right, your probability of retiring with success can go up and down depending, but it just speaks to having a flexible retirement, right? Anytime I do one of these videos, I talk about how important it is to be flexible with your retirement plan. It speaks to the importance of a financial planner in your life. I know I'm tooting my own horn there, but it is very important that you can go to for someone whenever these changes happen, right? When you have a health event, when the stock market's down 25% in a year, when the things that are going to throw off these variables in your retirement matter. So ultimately, as you saw today, the longer that you wait until retirement, ultimately the better your retirement score is going to look. But that doesn't take into the factors of life, right? You have to work 2 or 3 more years under a boss you don't like, or you have to work a job that you don't really get enjoyment out of. So sometimes if it is worth lowering your living expenses, if it is worth maybe taking a little bit less out for travel, if it's worth contributing more to your retirement accounts today, these are all conversations that you need to be having. So I know that there's no way to give you a clear and definitive answer over YouTube, but I hope today's video has been helpful for you. If you have any questions or would like me to run a projection for you, I'd be happy to do so. But until then, I'll see you next time.